Hey you guys, this is Yolanda from Yolaji Holistic Wellness, and I'm making this video on things you should not do during Mercury in retrograde. So sometimes we forget about making certain decisions during Mercury retrograde because we're just living our day-to-day life and we're just like checking off our to-do lists and things like that. Mercury is the planet of communication. So during Mercury in retrograde, it often feels like that we're moving backwards instead of forwards, or sometimes that the energy is just stagnant and we're not moving at all. And so during Mercury in retrograde, you really want to take the time to self-reflect on life decisions, especially major decisions as well, because that can get you in a little bit of a pickle. And Mercury being so energetically, like affected. Mercury also affects our electronics and things like that. So with that, you always want to make sure that you wait until after Mercury in retrograde, or just make sure that you're really paying conscious attention to what you're doing during Mercury in retrograde. So these are a few tips and things that I kind of wrote down just to kind of give you a heads up, so that way you can be reminded during this Mercury in retrograde, because it has been a very powerful one. A lot of people have been slightly or extremely affected by it. I'm going to say that I had one episode that was really affected by it, and I'll kind of share that as I go along my list. So the first thing is that you never want to buy new electronics during Mercury in retrograde. A lot of things tend to glitch, and a lot of things tend to stall. So you may notice that your internet is not working properly, or that your computer is freezing up. You may have mechanical problems. Right now is not the time to make any major decisions on mechanical work, like when it comes to your car, because as Mercury is glitching everything, your mechanic may overmiss or overlook something that they couldn't quite focus or get the direct information on, because again, all major like modern cars are electronic, so that could create more like misdiagnosis. So if you do make a major decision in getting your car fixed or anything like that, you may notice after Mercury in retrograde that there is something that may pop up that your mechanic might have overlooked. So take that into consideration. And the next thing is avoiding changing careers or jobs, because Mercury is the planet of communication. So there may be things that we overlook. One job may sound better than the other one, and we may get caught up because it does create a mental state of stress when we're trying to decide on it during Mercury in retrograde, because Mercury can create confusion within the mind, because we're often going through the hidden aspects of the dark night of the soul, things that we don't want and things that we do want, because it's sort of a reminder of the things that we want to change in our life. So when you're making life changes like on career and jobs, you definitely want to slow it down or postpone that from any major decisions, because you may end up finding yourself in the same position that you were in before, or it may sound too good to be true and you overlook something to find yourself majorly disappointed. And so I always suggest to wait on that one. And the next one is avoid making any major decisions in general, because that's the main rule of thumb during Mercury in retrograde. Because again, hidden night, the dark night of the soul, then you have the confusion, the miscommunication. There's a lot of miscommunication during Mercury in retrograde. Everybody wants to be heard, or everyone is triggered by an emotion or a mental thought. And so most people tend to react unless you're really aware of proacting. So take the time during this shift to proact, which is not reacting at all, and just like kind of like brushing it off, and consider your options and consider what things you can do to progress. And also take time to self-reflect. You know, that's really, really important. The next one is don't sign any major contracts. So, because there are details, again, in that contract that you can overlook. There might be something, a clause that you miss, or there might be some expectation from you or, you know, the landlord, things like that. And so definitely postpone that one. The next one is don't jump into new relationships, and definitely don't jump into any relationships that were past, like with an ex. A lot of exes tend to pop up, and they always come in during a Mercury in retrograde. You may get an email, a text message, or an instant message saying, hey, how you doing? I've been thinking about you, and I just thought that maybe, you know, we may have another chance, and wanted to consider that and see if we can get together. So there's a reason why an ex is an ex, and there's a reason why they're in the past. Do you really want to go down that route again? So insanity is doing the same things over and over again. And oftentimes when those exes recur and they claim that they've made a drastic change and shifts in their life, 9 out of 10, it's usually just a front, unless they've actually done some deep soul searching within and healing. But so common sense, just, you know, use it. You have it. So there's a reason why they're an ex. And for those who are entering our lives and wanting a new relationship during Mercury in retrograde, really have patience. Mercury in retrograde is all about having patience. It's all about taking the time to not rush into anything, because during Mercury in retrograde, even though it feels so stagnant and blocked, we're looking for a way to like compulsively try to figure out how to get ourselves out of this mess, or try to like hurry up and make the process complete, so that way we're like, okay, we're good, you know, whether it be with finances, relationships, or just anything in general personally. And that goes for major purchases too. So you don't want to buy major purchases like electronics, you know, like major, you know, big purchases on electronics, because again, electronics glitch during Mercury in retrograde. Stick with what you have. Take your time. Work it out. Do your research. That's what Mercury in retrograde is about. It's about doing reflection, research, and being patient. The next one is on the list is, let's see, avoid unnecessary travel. So I never heard of this one, and I had not even thought about it, but I took a trip during Mercury in retrograde, and that was so chaotic. So what literally was supposed to be a 12-hour flight winded up turning into a 3-day adventure in trying to get where I needed to get. And there was flooding, cancellations. I had to find an alternate route, and there was a 24-hour layover, and I had to drive from point A to get to point B, which was my final destination. So it was a lot of adventure, a lot of venturing out, you know, but once I got there, it was so amazing. So I mean, just really ask yourself if it's really worth the travels right now. In my opinion, it was, and I was okay with it once I got to my destination. But during Mercury in retrograde, you have to remember that electronics glitch. There are double bookings, there are flight cancellations, and you know, like my airline was not Southwest, but another thing that was going on during my cancellation in my flight was that Southwest, the whole system glitched, and there were like over 300 flight cancellations, and I didn't even know about it until I got back. I was just wondering why they didn't have any available air flights to go to where I was going, so I chose for another option. And there tends to be lost luggage. So just miscommunication, overlooking the fine detail in the print and in the eye, you know. So communication just doesn't come with the throat chakra. It also comes with the eye and the ear. It's not just what we speak, it's what we hear, it's what we see. So really all these senses, your third eye and your throat chakra, are really affected during this time of shifting, you know. So really we need to pay a lot of attention to those areas and really hone in on seeing behind the veil, to not allow the stagnation of distractions to interfere with our ability to speak the truth, hear the truth with understanding and without judgment, which is the third eye. Making sure to observe exactly what it is that we need to see that is for the greater benefit of our higher self instead of the ego, because the ego will eradicate everything that we need to see because it's stuck in fear mode because things are not moving, right? So you're not shifting like you were a month ago, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, which creates and feeds that fear that happens during Mercury in retrograde. So the next one is hold off on any major purchases. Save your money. Just, you know, just save it, budget, you know, because any major purchases, again, electronics glitch, all that good stuff. So what if something goes out and you find yourself in a pickle because you made a major purchase on something where you could have took that money and invested in somewhere else? So another thing that I've also had was my AC went out. Right? And people are really becoming triggered. So my business AC got vandalized because somebody got triggered, stuck in fear mode because of finances, trying to steal the coils, the copper, right? So luckily I did not have to take care of that. But again, I was nervine about it because I was like, I don't know if I'm responsible for it. But the landlord took care of it. But it just goes to show you how Mercury in retrograde, and this has all happened within Mercury in retrograde for me. So it goes to show you how Mercury in retrograde not only affects you supernaturally, but also physically, because other people are becoming triggered because they're stuck in fear mode and they're triggering to try to get themselves out of this bind, whether it be financial debt, career, relationship, whatever. So those around you are going to have a major impact in your mentality and your emotional well-being. So please do not allow anyone to affect you by reacting and proacting, you know. Don't get yourself stuck in a pickle by putting your foot in your mouth and saying something that you're going to later regret. Don't try to outdo others. You know, don't put yourself in like a major situation that could create a tower card for you, which is like everything just kind of like falling down. So if you find that things are being postponed, that things are not happening, ask yourself, is this for the better good? And I'm going to tell you 9 out of 10, it is for the better good of your higher self, because your higher self is trying to tell you, hey, we need to take time to just hold up and just stand still, because we don't need all this stuff going on, you know? So it's like that saying, what's the saying? Oh my God, I can't think of the saying right now. If it's not physical, postponement could be your divine's rejection into saying that's not for you at this moment. So I hope that helps, and I hope you have a great day and a great week, and thank you so much for watching. God bless. Peace out.